Hi, morning, everybody. This here is my Chinese bamboo, lucky bamboo. Still waiting for the luck. Anyways, so today class we're gonna begin from inside the house, and then we're gonna venture outside. All right. As you can see, we have very partial cloud cover, a little bit of haze outside as well. All right. The sun is not up yet. As a matter of fact, it is 5:30 in the morning. Good. This here is in fact the thermometer. This is the mercury thermometer within this particular encasing here. We're going to utilize this for determining the temperature. As a matter of fact, I already did it because I can't do hold two things together in my hand. The temperature at 5:30, which is right now in the morning, is approximately 29 degrees Celsius. What we're going to do today, students, we are actually going to talk about how vegetative cover, how human activities, right, and how the actual location is responsible for determining the temperature. As a matter of fact, we would have already mentioned greenhouse gases, we would have already mentioned the greenhouse effect and whatnot. Today we're going to talk about global warming and that perspective and how we are in fact contributing to it. All right, what I'll do in this video also, I'll give you a definition of what global warming is. Okay. All right, so right now I'm not showing my face right now because it's looking kind of scary. It's at 5:30 in the morning. All right, so we'll begin shortly. All right, we're outside right now. This is in fact a very distinctive, what you call a variegated bamboo, more like a fence bamboo. That is Joe making noise right now. This is a little section of the, small little section of the garden here. All right, and we also have, as you can see, these tires are in fact used for cultivation and planting. And this is in fact the roadway. All right, so I have no fence really. This is the roadway per se. The sun is not up yet. All right, the place is actually relatively slightly overcast and whatnot. You see a lot of vines and greenery outside. Okay, I like it like that. All right, so students, the temperature right now is approximately 29 degrees Celsius at 5:30. All right, the place is very quiet with very few amount of cars and whatnot on the streets. All right, very quiet, minimal amount of vehicular movement and all these things. So what I'm gonna do, all right, I'm actually going to walk my dog in about 30 minutes time. I'm gonna measure back the temperature, all right, for you all to see. Well, they wouldn't be able to see it unfortunately, but I'll tell you exactly what it is. All right, and then we'll come back here. Okay. All right, so walking the road right now. This is Joe, everybody. Joe, this was the good dog actually was making noise right a couple of minutes ago. All right, what happened is that this is approximately, now is approximately 25 past 5. All right, so just want to kill some time basically, walking on the roadway here. As you can see, place is still very quiet. All right, I'm actually going to show you something right now. I'm going to show you a particular plant, right? Since we're killing time before the 6:30 mark or the 6:45 mark, right? I'm going to show you a very distinctive plant as a matter of fact. Hold on. All right, now students, I happened to stumble upon this plant a couple of days ago. This is actually growing very wild. This is what you call, I believe, I could be wrong, eh? This is what you call the Borneo giant, right? If not a relative to it, all right? Now this plant is in fact a very distinctive house plant as a matter of fact, which is often placed in the shade, not in direct sun, but away from the direct sunlight as a matter of fact. It is in fact very significant in terms of absorbing carbon dioxide also, especially during nighttime. During daytime, sorry. And also it absorbs certain types of toxins such as formaldehyde, toluene. We also have xylene and some other volatile organic compounds. So this is actually a very good plant you could actually have at home as well. Now listen to the effects, right? It actually absorbs certain toxins. There are numerous types of greenhouse gases that exist in the atmosphere. These gases are basically, we cannot see them, but it exists in the entire atmosphere here so far. All right, so just remember, such gases are actually present. They exist in the atmosphere. We cannot see them, as a matter of fact, but the objective is basically to reduce the amount that exists in the atmosphere, primarily to perhaps stabilize or come at some common ground the temperature of the earth right now, which is very, very hot in comparison to approximately 50 to 100 years ago. All right, humans have in fact altered the atmospherics, right, and did in fact create a very warm condition. All right, we have accelerated the greenhouse effect, which results in a warming effect of the earth. Now, we're going to talk about the greenhouse effect. The global warming effect. Now, students, as a definition, the global warming, or global warming as a matter of fact, is in fact a natural process, but this here is influenced by human activities. It is accelerated by human activities. All right. So how? We have vehicular emissions. We have improper agricultural activities. We also have vegetative removal. As you can see, when we remove all these trees and vegetation and whatnot, we basically remove that factor which is responsible for producing oxygen primarily during the day. This simple tree and this cluster of vine that I am actually below, right, is very, very significant because what it does, it provides a microclimate, right? Because below here we have a lot of shade, especially when the sun is up. So it will provide a microclimate, which by extension would contribute to a cooler effect. So the microclimate factor is one of very big significance. Also, trees photosynthesize. Joe, trees photosynthesize. What does that mean? During the daytime, under the presence of the sun, right now we have light. Not direct sunlight, but we have light. The presence of the sun, the leaves of these trees, what they do, they basically take in more carbon dioxide. And during the daytime, they also release oxygen, more oxygen primarily. So class, that is actually a very significant thing because this will basically offset the carbon emissions primarily to a certain extent. There are a multitude of different types of trees which have different rates in terms of absorption of carbon dioxide. But we're not only referring to carbon dioxide. There are different gases as well, like we mentioned in class previously. But carbon dioxide is the most significant one because we are all carbon-based life forms. All right? Now, students, we know what global warming is. Just to reiterate, it's a natural process which is accelerated by human activities where the average temperature of the world, of the earth, or the planet is in fact increasing. Right now, I just took the temperature a couple minutes ago. All right. Well, that was before I started walk, Joe, as a matter of fact. And what happened is that I realized it was shifting closer to 30 degrees Celsius. That is only a couple minutes, 30 degrees Celsius as a matter of fact. And what does this see? This simply is an indicator that the temperature of the earth is in fact warming, basically influenced by the ascent of the sun. What happened is that the sun itself, it has not risen as yet. All right, as you can see, the place is still a bit shady. We have a lot of cloud cover as well, but the sun is not up yet, and the temperature is in fact warming. All right, slightly. This is because as the sun rises, all right, even in the furthest reaches on the east, as the sun rises, even the little ray of sunshine that we get in, like the scattered ray of sunshine we get here, that causes us to see primarily at this point in time, that is responsible for basically providing a lot of warmth in the environment. And the temperature is directly associated with that. It will rise. Okay? Now these trees here, these are what you call Ashoka trees. Alright, as you can see, class, they are very, very tall. I recently trimmed them. They are approximately, well, that one is approximately 20 feet tall. And these here are in fact approximately, it's about 15 feet high, right? Now class, vegetative cover, alright, what it does, vegetative cover basically provide, apart from the microclimate, apart from the fixation of carbon dioxide into their structures, causing the temperature to become cooler, alright, apart from that, we always bear in mind that when you have a greater density of trees or density of forest, which is in fact in terms of height and also in terms of structure, When you have a greater density of trees, you will realize that the temperature is in fact somewhat offset, because a greater density refers to also height and also lateral spread. Okay, and that is responsible to cooling the environment significantly. Why? Because what it does, apart from the microclimate, it basically captures a lot more carbon dioxide per unit area. All right, so always remember, when you increase forest density or tree density in your area, you're actually doing a lot more benefit. You are imposing a lot more benefits towards the environment by actually capturing more greenhouse gases and by extension carbon dioxide. All right, now students, you don't need, all right, plenty space to even plant trees and whatnot, or even to provide more vegetative cover. As a matter of fact, if you have more concrete area in your homes and whatnot, you can put them in pots, you can put them in containers like these. And you see this particular plant, this is what you call a rice plant, a rice fern, right? This rice fern actually is very important in terms of also absorbing a lot of noxious gases, as well as this one. This one can be, this is what you call a Boston fern, if I'm not mistaken. All right, this one can be utilized and put inside the house, as a matter of fact, to help to purify the air as well. Okay? Now, all right, everybody pay attention to this right now on the screen. Well, what I'm showing you right now. Now, usually, as you can see, this thing is actually happening to this particular coconut tree as well. You can see some vines growing on top of it, right? Now, when we are managing these things for, say, particularly for agricultural purposes, we will try to avoid having these vines and whatnot growing. But students, this particular vine is so essential because the warmer the climate gets, right, this fortifies, that condition fortifies a lot more growth. It promotes a lot more growth, as a matter of fact. All right, and this type of vine is in fact one of those vegetative species which basically highlight or enjoys this particular type of warmer conditions. As you can see, well, the garden here is actually a bit of a lot of grass. You can see some baigan and whatnot growing there, right? Now, ideally, for proper agricultural productivity and whatnot, all right, ideally, we will know fully well that the objective is to have a clean surrounding for your plants and all these things. That is true. That is 100% true, as a matter of fact. Joe, leave the bag alone. So what happened is that I haven't, well, really cut any corner here as well for a long while, for a couple of days, as a matter of fact, because we received a lot of rain and whatnot. But just remember, students, all right, naturally, in the natural world, you don't have, all right, that whacking and whatnot. In the natural world, all these species here are basically coexisting. You call it I-N-T-E-R, interspecific competition. All right. This vertical height, where you have some of these vines and whatnot growing, this is what you call a Acarilli vine. All right. What it does, sometimes it offers a lot of shade to these other crops here. When it offers shade, it also offers that level of moisture retention. Moisture is retained. All right. You remember the ashokas I showed you a couple minutes ago? That ashoka is in fact providing that level of shade. Once you have shade, you have moisture being retained, because why? You don't have that direct sunlight heating up the earth, drying up the earth. That's why all these trees are decided to keep them. All right. Yes, we have to whack out the grass or whatever. Beyond there is approximately 5 feet drop. This area was recently backfilled. So the objective is to maintain the vegetative cover, all right, or grasses, even trees, or whatever your case may be, to ensure the land is stable, the land is stabilized. Now, students, the video that you would have looked at, all right, the documentaries that I sent for you all to look at, Kiss the Ground, that is one, A Life on Our Planet, and also, well, yeah, basically those two. They mention terrestrial ecosystems like this. And they also try to focus on the fact that when you have a greater diversity of species, you have more competition among species, you have more diversity. That is the reason why, class, it was indicated that you need to have a greater degree of species diversity, as a matter of fact. Why? Because they will tend to have a very stable ecosystem with the progression of time. Now, students, you cannot check nature. Nature will find a way. We could try to suppress it how much we want. Look at this particular vine growing up on top of the lines, the electrical lines. If the insect seeders, they might cuss, but the fact of the matter is that we can't help that. This is how the vines are actually subjected to grow. and they are growing naturally without the presence of pesticides and whatnot, which is actually a very, very good thing. Okay, and the more density in terms of altitude, height, and whatnot, I'm actually being shaded by this particular vegetative cover here right now. So if the sun has it basically is trying to poke out in the corner there, it's trying to basically heat up the earth, this vegetative cover will maximize upon the sun's energy, providing shade to me, providing shade to the ground, maintaining moisture in the ground, maintaining my shade or my cover for a period of time, while at the same time enjoying the benefits of the sun's radiation. So trees are actually extremely, extremely beneficial. Right now I'm sweating. That is a very perfect indication that the temperature is in fact rising slightly. So what I will do, I will take a temperature reading for you shortly and give you an incremental time frame to show you basically how the temperature is in fact rising. Right now on the streets, on the hills, we are actually seeing a lot more cars passing. I heard a few of them passing a couple of minutes ago, alright? And we know fully well this is in fact affecting also the amount of noxious gases from the vehicles, from the cars and whatnot. They are contributing to the gases into the atmosphere. Alright, so pay attention to these things, right? So if you realize, like you can see a car passing there right now. If you realize the more cars you have, the more emissions you have, the hotter it would be. Compare, students, a countryside area, which is what I'm somewhat where I'm at right now. Well, honestly speaking, my house is actually one of the most vegetative cover in the area. Alright, but generally speaking, when you have these particular areas like these being maintained, alright, you will realize the temperature is actually much cooler. Right, you could actually create a cooler environment even within the surrounding areas of your rooms, your galleries and whatnot. All right, and you can see a lot of birds and whatnot flying. So I'm going to do a video for you right now to show you how some of the greenery in the past, in the back, like say along the streets where my neighbors are, they actually plant a lot of flowers and whatnot. Okay, so okay, let's go. All right, directly across the road. All right, you see that long nest that is hanging there, that brown long nest, that is what you call a cornbird nest. Now these type of birds, they are uniquely adapted to taller vegetative cover where they will build their nests in a descending fashion. All right, and that is how they adapted to the environment. So they prefer tall trees, tall vegetative cover, which is actually a very good thing. You can imagine in the absence of tall vegetative cover like this, all right, which is approximately say 20 feet high and plus and over, in the absence of that vegetative cover, where would these species be going? Think about it, students. All right, so you see the need, how it affects the temperature, how the vegetation is in fact very important in terms of regulating the atmosphere and whatnot, but also at the same time, on a simultaneous level, it is responsible for also providing that habitat for life. Okay, let's go down in the back. All right, as you can see, there's a lot of flowers and whatnot. All right, in the surrounding areas. All right, as we're walking on the streets. Now, Eddie, morning. And what it does, basically, right? It provides that type of environment which will be able to have a lot of bees and whatnot. It could be bees, it could actually be butterflies, it could be insects, different species and whatnot. And just imagine, students, in the absence of those things, you wouldn't have any life. In the absence of bees, you wouldn't have any pollination. Scientists estimate that in the absence of bees, basically, you wouldn't be able to have that level of pollination which would be able to sustain life. Okay, so you see the significance of the greenery. It doesn't matter whether it be agricultural crops or even flowers. It is advisable you cultivate both of them. All right. Now, students, this particular area behind the Ashoka trees, right? This is the garden area. It's one section of the garden, as a matter of fact. This area basically didn't have any vegetative cover whatsoever. All right, not a single one. In the past, that's approximately close to 20 years ago. All right, and what happened is that every so often you had to put like a little manure to dig the earth, auger the earth, put some manure, put a little bit of like compost and whatnot to help to activate the soil and whatnot. It was very, very parched. It was very, very dry. and we know fully well that there was no vegetative growth. This whole area was barren. But thankfully, with the progression of time, like I said, nature finds a way, and also you have to help it. You can see in the back, basically, there's a lot more trees, right, in the area in the back there. This is what they call a shattering tree across there. This is, in fact, what they call an axe mango tree, all right? There are numerous tree species in here. We have cherries. You also have cocoa and whatnot cultivated, all right? So that being said, it is important to note, right, how these tree species can actually flourish in an environment which is basically aided by human activities. Now, what my grandfather was actually saying a couple of years in the back is that before they decided to cut down, just to talk about like since the 1970s or even 60s, right? My dad was born 1960. So my grandfather was actually indicating to me when he was alive that this area where our house is built upon, it was cut down. There was nothing growing in it. It was just basically barren. No trees, nothing. Look at it today, which is approximately, say, 60 years later. All right, 61 years to be exact later. There's a lot more tree species and whatnot. Class, that is very important. What it does, it cools the temperature. So vegetative cover, all right, naturally cools the temperature of the atmosphere. All right. Okay. So students, what do we know today in the world, in Trinidad? What do we know? We know for sure that we are cutting down a lot more trees, all right, throughout the entirety of Trinidad. We have approximately 60% forest remaining. But we know fully well the migrants coming in, illegal or not, all right. Also, you also have people right here in Trinidad, locals, who are in fact squatting and whatnot, removing vegetative cover. I'm telling you personally, students, this is a personal account. In the past, all right, when I was younger, I'm talking about like say 20 years ago, at 7 o'clock in the morning, the temperature was cooler. I used to actually feel cold. When you used to go Maracas on the hills, you're feeling cold. You have no air conditioning because the place blistering cold, if you understand what I mean. All right, but today we realize that it is so early in the morning and I am sweating. It is so hot. All right, so all these things are important things to consider. All right, the change in the atmosphere, the change in the climate. Now we're talking about climate here. The question is, what is climate? What does that term mean? What does climate refer to? Now students, the term climate, right, that term is in fact used to refer to the condition of the atmosphere over a prolonged period of time. The climate in the earth today is way hotter than what it was previously. As you can see, the ice caps are melting and whatnot. Even right here in the tropics, we don't have any ice caps, of course. We don't. But right here in the tropics, we realize that the temperature is in fact a lot warmer, a lot hotter, a lot drier. All right. And we know that. That's the reason why we have a lot of water problems and whatnot, minus WASA. All right. I think WASA was on the environment. But anyhow. So what I'm trying to say here, students, the climate is in fact changing. But what is the climate? The condition of the environment or the atmosphere over a prolonged or a long-term period of time. All right, say within several months or even decades. All right, as you can see, your parents would tell you that the climate long ago in the tropics, it was always hot, it was always warm. But we know fully well that it is becoming warmer. That is where the prospect of climate change is in fact associated. So although the climate is still existingly warm, it is becoming what? Warmer. Why? Because we are pumping more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So you can see how the greenhouse effect is linked to global warming and how global warming is influencing climate change. All right? How we are destroying a lot more natural environment and we are creating a lot more conditions which are in fact associated with more of a man-made environment. Right here on this road, pay attention to this now. Right here on this road, when the sun is up, this road, I cannot walk on this road bare feet. My feet will basically burn me. Because what happened is that the concrete structure on the road right here, it radiates more heat. What does that mean? That means temperature or hot air rises, right, from this particular spot. Whereas I can easily, I'll spin like a top right now because my dog only tangling my foot here with the chain. Right here, which is just nearby, Students, if I place my feet on the grass here, all right, here will be a lot cooler, because in the grass you basically have vegetation, which is the grass, of course. You also have like leaf litter. You also have like soil, which basically it doesn't radiate more heat. When you hear the term radiate, radiate means to give off. When something is hot, that means the heat is basically rising off that particular object. And what happens is that the sun bakes the earth, especially man-made structures like these. They tend to radiate a lot more heat. That's the reason why in the nighttime, all right, now when I say night, I mean like talking about like say 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the night. After the sun basically fried, later on in the night, the roads, the streets become cold or cool. All right, but just bear in mind, when you have a lot more soil, when you have a lot more grasses, when you have a lot more vegetative cover, doesn't matter what density it is, you realize that you have a cooler climate. So we know vegetative cover is largely important, especially when it comes to when it comes to climate change. All right, now going back to this particular variegated bamboo here. This grows very, very quickly. This forms like a very thick mat. This is approximately 8 feet tall. I have to cut it. All right, I have to trim it. All right, what happened is that this particular bamboo, this is approximately a year and a half old. It was very, very small. All right, and I decided to put them down like about 2 feet apart or 1 foot apart, and they form a big thick mat. This same vegetative cover here, class, I actually wanted to do this. I decided I want to have a class outside. I will be right behind this particular bamboo. What it does, it naturally absorbs a lot more greenhouse gases than many other vegetative species. All right, this is what you call this is basically a type of grass. It belongs to the grass family. All right, just like these here, except this one, it grows in a very dense foliage up. It grows vertically, so I need to trim it to make sure it is actually under siege. It is under cover. All right, as you can see, it is very dense even at the base, which is very good. So if you want to have a fence and you don't want to put up, like say parents don't want to put up, say, a concrete wall or whatever, you can use this type of bamboo, but you just have to maintain it. And I promise you, class, 100%, this will contribute to a cooler effect in your environment. Now, trees, right, they provide a cool microclimate. How do we understand that? What is a microclimate? Basically, if I'm exposed to, say, a lot of sunlight, the sun will fry me, give me a tan or whatever. But if for some strange reason I decide to put this type of vegetation here, or perhaps like a big tree like that one across there, all right, what it does basically, it will actually create a little bit of shade, like we mentioned earlier. And when you have more shade, you have less advent of the sun. Once you have that, you will have a cooler condition associated. Students, just to give you a quick, before we leave, today we nearly finish, just to give you a quick understanding of it all. All right, we know what global warming is. Just to reiterate, global warming is a natural process, a natural phenomenon, where the average temperature of the earth is in fact becoming warmer. It is increasing. All right, what do we know also? Global warming is accelerated by human activities, largely influenced by human activities. Why do I say accelerating? Because we have had warming events even in the past. All right, and that is actually very, very important. Okay, so that warming event is actually significant because right now the earth is way hotter than what it was 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago we had the last ice age. All right, okay, what else do we know? Apart from global warming, we know the importance of vegetative species, vegetation. When I say vegetation, I'm referring to trees, different types of greenery alike. All right, when you have a greater density of trees, a greater density in terms of vegetative cover, you will by extension be absorbing more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere primarily during the daytime. Why is the focus is upon the daytime? The focus is primarily upon the daytime because it is the daytime we have the actual sun, all right, which heats up the earth indirectly. So when we extract the carbon dioxide and different types of greenhouse gases naturally from the environment, what it does, it basically results in less of those gases, which contribute to a slightly cooler temperature. In addition to which, this vegetation basically in general, they provide that microclimate which results in a cooler condition. All right, what is climate change? We know what climate is. Climate is in fact the condition of the atmosphere over a prolonged period of time. All right, over a prolonged period, which is a long-term period. The Earth's climate is in fact changing because, prime example, in the past it was not as warm as it is today. All right, especially in the tropics where we live. Around this time it was cold, not anymore. All right, what is the effects of climate change? We have a lot. We have warmer temperatures. The effects of climate change, because of that now we have problems with respect to even agricultural productivity. Some people believe that they have a lot more pests. In fact, many pests are much more prevalent, all right, in conditions like these. Okay, apart from that, students, you have reduced agricultural productivity. You also have, with respect to that, you realize one leads into the other. With respect to that, we realize you also have less rainfall associated with the environment. All right, some areas, the tropics is in fact becoming drier. All right, whereas the Arctic regions are in fact becoming damper or wetter. All right, because of the melting of the ice caps in those polar regions. But right here in the tropics, which is also existingly warm, it is becoming warmer, or I should say, in this space I should say hotter. All right. The effects can also be associated with even some vegetative species like these. They are unable to adapt to the environment, and they eventually become desiccated or dry. That's why you have a lot of fires as well. In 2004, there were in fact major fires in the Amazon. I remember I was in Form 5 at that time, and the Amazon region was associated with a lot of fires. It's as simple as last year. We had a lot of fires, many of which were man-made also, all right, but some of them were also propagated by natural influences. Okay, so we know some of the effects. That's just a few. There are many effects of climate change. Oh, and students, let me go and check the temperature for you right now. It is exactly 6:15, all right? And well, if you realize, I was pausing the video progressively, right? It's exactly 6:15. And let me check the temperature for you now. Hold on. Students, would you be amazed that the temperature right now is 31 degrees? It's a little less than 31 degrees. Just imagine that. It's a little less than 31 degrees. So it's approximately 31 degrees. We started off this morning by saying the temperature was in fact 29. All right, but right now it is approximately 31 degrees. Let us say it is 30.5. Let us give us that benefit of the doubt. 29 to 30.5. What is that range? That range there is in fact 30.5. That's a 1.5 degrees range. How do you calculate range? Temperature range. You say the maximum temperature minus the minimum temperature. 30.5 minus 29 degrees Celsius. That is 1.5 degrees Celsius. And you could see 1.5 degrees Celsius might not sound as much, but I promise you one thing, I'm sweating now, way more now than it was before. And imagine the students, we have a lot of cloud cover in the atmosphere right now. All right, and it is in fact slightly drizzling. Right, just imagine what the temperature would be in the absence of such clouds. Imagine that. Put that in perspective, right? Okay, students, so I'll see you all next week. Basically, I want you to just peruse this video. I know I'm sorry about the bad videography and whatnot. I'm actually still holding the dog chain in my hand here, trying to balance it all. And also, what I will do, I'll type in some notes for you all to make sure you write it in your books as well. All right, students, I hope you all appreciate it. You'll take care. Bye-bye. Keep safe. I'll see you next week.